evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Netters Network Thursday Things. I have a very special guest waiting in the green room, but before I bring him on, let me introduce to you my co-host. You know him as the love of my life, that guy at the end of the bar, Troy Pacelli. How you doing tonight, sweetie, and what are you sipping on?
I am doing well, thank you. I am sipping on a zero sugar grapefruit soda.
Oh, let's see. Well, I've got what's been my usual lately, the Meyer brand sparkling water berry flavor. Not a sponsored stream. They should sponsor me considering how much of their water I drink.
My goal is to someday be sponsored by, I don't know, Kraken rum maybe.
Maybe. That's like what is that one lady that does the dolls where she should be sponsored by Mr. Superclear?
Yeah, exactly.
Let us say hello to the chat before we bring our guests in. First up, of course, is Lady Myst in super early. She was here at 4:49 p.m., eager to get started saying her hellos. And, of course, she's giving my little pretty hearts and flowers. How you doing, sweetie? We have Connie Cleary, who was here at 7:32, so still a little early. Not as early as Lady Myst, though. We have Tim saying hail to everyone at 7:38. So yeah, we had some early birds today. Big Al Presents saying wish you a great show, saying hi early because I may be passed out by 10 because it's 10 Eastern for him. Let's see who else we got here. We have Deleted Scenes giving his salute. And go on, y'all trying to be early, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
What was that Netters person saying hi to everybody? Lady Myst, Tim, Deleted. Dun, 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 dun. And we have that last call guy. Last call guy?
Yeah, I'm a call guy, I guess.
Is saying hello to me.
Coming up on our anniversary, and you're going to start pimping me out.
It's like, yeah, he flirts with me in the stream, I flirt with him. Saturday, for those of you who don't know, is our 32nd wedding anniversary. So we are continuing to celebrate early and looking forward to Saturday. We have Enigma Severs who says, I am here. And then he said, I came. That's what you said. We have a new face in the chat. Coda Spec Search saying, hola. Can't stay. Sadly, a classroom of 7-year-olds does not leave much energy.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Welcome. Glad to see you in the chat. Let's see who else I might have here. Did I say hi to Curtis yet? If not, hi. Curtis saying hello to everybody.
I know. I feel like I might have said hi to him twice, but, you know, he's responsible for the Tired Midnight Blogger raid, so I think that deserves an extra thanks.
And we have Tommy in the Guinea Pig Collective. How you doing, sweetie? Curtis says he's possibly already gone. He's a good guy. Just tries to keep up his social media activity minimal. If he doesn't sub, it would be because he left and didn't see the comment. Yeah, because I subbed to him and I just said, hey, I appreciate the sub back. Speaking of subbing, pinned to the top of the chat is the link to our special guest for tonight. So if y'all wouldn't mind going over there and giving our special guest a sub, that would be really wonderful. And of course we have Maria with Tea and Telly. How you doing, sweetie? Enigma, Tim. It's like the chat likes to jump, and it's like, so I'm trying to go slow. Christian Delamore, I can't talk. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I just butchered your name. Christian saying hello to everyone. Bonjour. Let's see. Last call saying he's way behind and saying hi to people.
Yeah, I was getting stuff ready for the stream, and yeah, I fell behind.
Okay, I think I got to the bottom. If I missed anyone, please let me know, because I want to make sure that I say hi to all of my sweeties out there. Okay. Yes, I thought I saw another one come in, but no. Okay. So I would like to introduce to you my guest for this evening. He's a former wrestler. He's also a gamer. and an author. Let me introduce to you Rod Thunderheart. How you doing, sweetie? And what are you sipping on?
How you doing? Just having some co-op fruit punch.
Cool.
Just water-based.
And we're all non-alcoholic tonight. Friday night is when we have
Friday night I drink.
Yeah.
Most nights she's still non-alcoholic, but what can you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we get started, all my peeps in the chat, Rod is currently at 105 subs. I want to see how high we can get him tonight. And
His
I know
link is pinned to the top there.
Yes, and I know that all of you are going to share the love. So, goodness, you are a former wrestler. And I know there's probably a lot of people who know the name Rod Thunderheart from the wrestling days.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, like how you got into wrestling? Yeah, I know zero about wrestling, so I'm not even sure what kind of questions they ask about that. But it's like how did you get into it? Like, did you start when you were in high school, or was it something that you went into later on in life?
Well, it's one of those things that I even wanted to get into it in high school, but it's kind of like, well, you don't know how, and then finally, 1994, and unfortunately by that time Stampede Wrestling down in Calgary had died, or at least had been bought out by Vince McMahon, so the territory that is. And but I know I wasn't stupid. I know that there was other wrestling, minor league pro wrestling leagues around there. So I went down there, and I happened to find there's a place called Rocky Mountain Wrestling, and probably the most significant thing notable about Rocky Mountain Wrestling, I don't know if you'd want to acknowledge it these days, but that's actually where Chris Jericho, he went under the name Lionheart Chris Jericho, got his start, as well as Lance Storm.
I've heard the name Lance Storm before.
Yeah, Lance Storm actually, out of Ontario, he operates a wrestling school now because I don't want to say anything bad about him. I liked him and everything like that, but I don't know. He's just one of those guys that he made it to the bigs, and then he didn't really get the splash that Y2J did. So yeah. Anyway, they did notice though that I was one of the that I could do the splits like Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they were
cool.
just yeah.
That really is cool. Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. When I was in martial arts when I was younger, I was trying. I was slowly, working it out, and I don't know. For all my discipline when I was younger, working out and so forth, that was one thing I just said, I'm tired of this.
Real quick, let me say hello to Moira Kitty and Evelyn Hampton. How you guys doing?
Welcome.
Enigma Severus has a question for you.
Sure.
He said, once we have an opportunity, I would love to know Rod's thoughts on the movie The Wrestler.
Oh,
I loved it. I even know there's a pharmacist that Mickey Rourke, like his character goes in and he gets like drugs from this like legal drugs, like his prescription from a pharmacist. And I know the pharmacist. I know her personally. Well, not personally, but she's The Rock's cousin. Her name's Vali Anawai, and she's actually daughter of the Wild Samoan. I think I can remember his name. But anyway, she's daughter of the Wild Samoan, and of course he's a big deal in the wrestling world too. And but anyway, I got to know her on Facebook, and then we just clicked, we hit it off as friends, And then and then actually surprisingly, not surprisingly, she's one of those. I don't know how you describe it, but just one of those people who are comfortable being alone. And she's traveled the world, she's gone all over. She's gone to Ireland, she's gone to Russia, she's gone to Germany, just by herself, and just really wanted to. And then ultimately, like she just got obsessed with like, you know what, I'm tired of, like she wasn't by any means overweight, but I mean like she, she felt like she was in a body she was just uncomfortable with, and then she literally lost a ton of weight and like just absolutely gorgeous. And then she suddenly fell in love with another Samoan, and then because they're Samoan, and then yeah. But yeah, no, she told me like she talked to me about it. She said Mickey Rourke was a fantastic guy, and like one as far as acting and just personality he was, and he was also real in terms of like he didn't I mean like no stuntman or anything. Like he did all the bumps, he did all the wrestling moves himself. Like they taught him how to wrestle, and like he did like the back bump, the front bump, the and then like the clothesline and all that, and he learned it all by himself, just like which is like, that's a harsh thing. I mean, like speaking from experience, yeah. But as I said, in 1994, I decided, like I'm gonna give this wrestling a shot. So I moved down. I moved down to Calgary, and I went and I found Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling, and a guy by the name of Beef Wellington or Biff Wellington, whichever. Yeah, I know. I first of all, I witnessed. I just paid for my to watch Rocky Mountain Wrestling, and then afterwards I went up to the promoter and then talked to him, and then he was like, "Yeah, you look pretty good. You're a nice size and everything. Yeah, sure. Well, why don't you show up on? We do our training on Thursday night just before wrestling, and then we'll see how you do. How you work out." Like, yeah, cool. And then I showed up at the local bar, which everybody was known to go to. It was a place called Glenn's Lounge, and I walked in there, and then like I bumped into this really tall guy, and I'm like big dude, and bald, and like and then he sits there, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, hey, how's it going?" And I just kind of look at him, and I'm like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You look like a friend of mine from Japan." I'm like, "What? I mean, I'm indigenous, but I don't look anywhere close to Japanese." And then he was like, "Oh, no. Like, I'm a pro wrestler." And I was like, I said, that's wow. I mean, because like I just went to Rocky Mountain Wrestling, and I was met Beef Wellington. I'm gonna show up at the practice on Thursday night, and he's like, "Oh, really? You're you like pro wrestling? Well, do you know who I am?" And then he straightens right up. I felt really shitty because I was like, "Man, who?" And I just like,
this guy?
yeah, and I'm just kind of like, he's like, "Oh, I'm Jason the Terrible." I'm just kind of, because you're not wearing your hockey mask. That's why I don't recognize you. And he just kind of, and then he laughed, and then we totally hit it off, and then he's like, "Well, if you're training, I'll show up tomorrow. I'll show up on Thursday night, and we'll see what you're made of." And like, yeah, no, I hit it off with him, and I went through wrestling with training with Rocky Mountain. But then I was riding my bike to training, and then and I had just a BMX bike at the time, and then like I wound up doing hitting a bump, and then like flipping over the bars, and like I had my backpack, and then like I guess I'd broken my collarbone, and I wound up going home, and then I literally wound up having to move home. And then, like a month later, the Rocky Mountain Wrestling went out of business, and then like, I'm just like, oh. So then, well, there goes that idea, or there goes that thing, And then, but 3 years later, in 1994 or 1997, I should say, I bumped in. There was another pro wrestling, Can-Am Wrestling, and one of their stars there was Teddy Hart, and I showed up there, and then I walked up and I was like, "Well, it's an honor to finally meet one of the Hearts," And then Ted, and then he sized me up, and then he's like, "Hey, wow, you look in pretty good shape. Are you you ever think about being a wrestler?" I was like, "Well, that's funny. Well, funny you ask." Anyways, I maintained contact with Ted, and then in 2000, I moved down to Calgary again to train. And by this time, by the way, like I said, everybody in all the wrestlers in Rocky Mountain Wrestling had moved on to all other territories and everything like that. Because that's pretty much that's the name of the game. I mean, like when you're in the minor leagues, and I trained with Ted for the summer of 2000, and then like I said, I was doing good, and it looked like I was gonna Ted was gonna get me on, but then and by that time Stampede Wrestling had actually started back up again. Bruce Hart was tired of waiting from word from Vince McMahon and all that sort of jazz. Anyway, and then but by that time, tragedy had struck at home here because Dad had gotten sick, and then he actually Mom was swearing up and down that he had meningitis, and because meningitis it's bacterial and it causes the blood to clot right in the skin.
Uh-huh.
And then as a result, you get like purple blotches all over your body, and then because with the blood clots, and then of course with poor circulation, you get really, really sore and everything. And Dad was not feeling too good, and then Mom took him into the hospital, and ultimately the doctor misdiagnosed him, and then he got sent into to Edmonton, and then ultimately when they looked him over and they were like, call the family, this man got out, and then when the real doctors look at him. And ultimately, Dad survived, but he lost his right hand, all the fingers on his left, 2/3 of his right leg, and 1/3 of his left leg.
Oh, goodness.
And in spite of all that, and in prosthetic limbs and everything like that, he still managed to learn to walk, and he managed to be able to get his license back. And
what was the diagnosis? What was wrong?
It was meningitis.
Oh,
indeed.
It was.
Mom was absolutely correct, but the doctor he was just arrogant, and he also turned out he was from Malaysia, and we actually wound up suing the bastard, and we won, but only at the cost of Dad's life, because Dad lived to hear that he'd won the case, but then like a month later he died from he had wound up having a hole in his aorta, and
oh, goodness, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, thanks. And then and by that time, by the way, and by this time I had I'd gotten in contact with Ted afterwards because I'd moved back to the farm and helped to keep the farm afloat and everything. But I'd maintained contact with Teddy Hart on the side and managed to maintain wrestling, and I'd even met a few friends from wrestling through Ted. But then I don't want to name him because I don't want to. Let's just say I met one of the Hart family, not one, fairly sizable star. I said I don't want to, but I just got annoyed with. Yeah, I just got annoyed with seeing him behind the curtain, and he was just kind of like, as soon as the door closed, he was just kind of like, he spits on the floor, and he's just kind of like fucking marks, and then and then like it just made me lose my spirit for wrestling, and I just like, I'm just like, yeah, there's just something about it just really rubbed me the wrong way. Ultimately, I do want to return to wrestling, and like that's actually one of the reasons why I'm getting in really, really good shape. But in the meantime, I moved on to becoming a trucker on the side, for full time. And but while I was on the road, I began to remember. I also had some emails that I call it Rod's Rants, which I'm actually going to start up again, and I actually already started up on my Patreon. I put the written rants up for free, and then ultimately the verbal, visual, spoken rants are going to be on the pay scale.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, while I was writing Rod's Rants, I also came up with a long time ago, way back in high school, I had this dream about this science teacher. Well, this wasn't really science. Well, she was a science teacher, but she was also she's just really a sub, and they're just like, she was smoking hot. You know how it is, And you know how it is when you're in high school, and then you're just like, oh man, hot teacher.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, and I had a dream about her, and then how she could become invisible, but she did it. It could only happen when she was aroused. And ultimately that became the first chapter of my book.
Oh, wow.
See Through Love.
Now, I wanted to ask you, the cover art on there, is that something that you did or somebody else?
I did the finishing, but my brother, my native brother, he actually drew it.
Cool.
I even actually found the original drawing he did of it too. So
Okay, since that's a nice segue, let's talk about your book. So,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about it. If you want to show the cover again, and Troy, I know you have
I've
the link.
already dropped the link.
Troy has dropped the link.
When he mentioned Patreon, I dropped the Patreon link. When he mentioned the book, I dropped the book link.
See, he's such a great blue wrenching husband. So you will see the Patreon link there. You also see the link to See Through Love, and the link to where to buy that. I mean, that is great cover art.
Yeah.
I really like that.
thanks. Yeah, my brother, he was actually just like racking his brain. And like I kept asking him, and I'd like to do the front cover, and then he was just trying to, and then just suddenly one night I think he had a dream or something, I don't know. But then like he woke up next morning, and then like all of a sudden like I think he even contacted me like right in the morning too, and like I was working, and I get this excited text from him, and he was like, Rod, I got it. What? He's like, I got your picture. Where is it? And then like he'd sent me picture, dozens of pictures after dozens of pictures. Well, not that many dozens, but like a lot, and a lot of concept art. And then like that was when he finally came up with this, with them like kind of in a tango,
Right.
And then like as soon as I saw it and like I got the idea of what he was going for, I was just like, that's it. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And he was just like, yes. So then like and then like he finished it up, and then like ultimately I actually, because I'm actually an artist, I'm an artist, and I'm also a digital artist, because I can also take pretty much any picture that you want. Just send me a picture on a computer, and I could do whatever you wanted to it. I mean, for example, I took this one pro wrestler friend of mine who was he was being beaten on the floor. Like somebody was like a wrestler was stomping him, and he's just kind of like laying there, and then like I took that picture of him, and I put him asleep on the beach at Cuba.
I bet he liked that.
Yeah, he got a kick out of it. He's like, holy shit. It really, and then like I'd even like I'm really good at digital art too. Like I can just cut off the edges and then like smooth them out so it looks like it's actually part of the picture. And like he was just kind of like, wow, it really looks like I'm there.
Oh, Enigma Severs has another question for you.
Yeah.
He said, Rod says his goal is to get back to the ring. What character is he considering to be?
Well, me, Rod Thunderheart.
Yep.
Okay.
Rod Thunderheart. Yeah.
Hey, Adega.
Yeah.
Another author.
Yeah.
Adega
Yes,
Outlaw.
another author.
Welcome.
No, right on.
So tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah. Well, it's the basic concept is the Spanish teacher, Carolina Dominguez. She's actually Brazilian, but then when her parents moved them to Canada, she chose to focus on teaching the Spanish language to the Canadian people. But in her teens, she was she got in. Well, she was well, you know how. Okay, she got right by a bunch of desgraciados, and then she comes home, and then her mama sees this, and then her mom gives her a herbal remedy, which can turn her invisible, and it worked. And then afterwards, they accidentally on purpose, they wind up killing themselves. I'm giving a story. Anyway, she as a result, she takes the remedy, and then ultimately down the road, it works with her body genetics, and then suddenly, whenever she becomes aroused, she turns invisible.
Oh,
but
neat.
yeah, but whenever she's angry, she can turn it on and off like at will, And then she's shocked to discover that the new gym teacher, not only is he blind and can see, but she later finds out that he can see by feeling everybody's energy fields in and around him, and the reflections off the walls and everything. And then, but because of that, he can see her when she's invisible.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, and it's based on real martial arts too. As a matter of fact, I practiced these exact ones too. Actually, Qigong martial arts.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, it's the exact same thing. The exact thing of like feeling people's energy, reflections of other people's energy.
Okay, peeps, I want to do a check-in. It looks like we're at 107 subs, so we've got to, and I know that not all of you are subbed to our special guest. So if you would please click on the link at the top of the chat and go over to his channel and share the love. I'd really appreciate it. And if you love me, you'll do this.
There you go.
Yeah, and see, Julian, as I said, he practices Qigong or Qui-Gong meditation. And that's basically the internal martial arts. That's to me, that's the real power. Kung Fu and karate and Taekwondo, those are all what you would call external martial arts, which, don't get me wrong, those are great. And hey, I practice some of that too. But I find it's actually the internal martial arts that are the real power.
Oh, wow. I like that cover.
Yeah. And, these are, to me, as I said, that to me is the real power of martial arts.
See, so it's more of like a control thing, rather, like martial arts externally is you're actually hitting, blocking, whatever, but the internal is more mental, if I'm understanding that correctly?
You got it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, more mental control. Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah, I never even tried to. I never even thought about it. But I actually made a little short story. When I was doing Rod's rants, I kind of wanted a little bit of a break from, because some of the hard rants become hard boiled, and I decided I wanted a bit of a break for my readers. So then I started writing this story. Originally, it was only supposed to be about 6, maybe 8 chapters. But then when I got to the 6th chapter, then suddenly I realized where I could go with it. And then a couple of my friends on email, they just hey, this is a great story. Why don't you should keep it going and make it into a book. And I'm just kind of why don't I do that? And yeah.
So is there a second book in the works?
Oh, I'm halfway through the second book right now, and I've already plotted out 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Maybe know the title of this new book.
See Through Love, Pyro.
Okay.
Yeah. This Pyro, it consists of an assassin who can cause people to spontaneously combust. People and things to spontaneously combust.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
It's it's different. That's not something that you see all the time as a power. So it's that's actually kind of cool. No.
Yeah.
Pun intended, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it wouldn't be a pun because that's the opposite of that.
Yeah. And then See Through Love 3 is called The Cuban Assassin, because they're going to be vacationing in Cuba. And then they're going to stumble across a plot to the president of Cuba. And then See Through Love 4 is going to be called The Craft, because if you're familiar with the movie The Craft in 1997.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's basically going to be that. But then it's also going to include Carolina, because Carolina, her mind is beginning to split. she's beginning to develop alternate personalities because, well, when you've been gripped, then sometimes some women tend to develop alternate personalities, and then whenever they wind up talking about the event that happened, they wheel it on to the other person. It's like, oh yeah, Sid took it on, went through that for me. It wasn't me, that sort of thing. And then their minds split. It's not uncommon for women who have been through such a traumatic event to develop alternate personalities to take the hit for them, so to speak.
Yep. So how many books are going to be in the series total?
I have 7 right now on tap, but I mean, awesome. I'd like to go on to 12. I have so many ideas. Yeah, I have so many ideas. Like I said, like the craft. And then See Through Love 5 is going to be Invisible Femme Fatale, which is there's going to be a string of murders committed, and they're going to be all of men, and and then it's going to look like there's an invisible female serial killer, and then Carolina's even going to begin to wonder, was it her? Was it really her? Was it her alternate personality? But then it's actually going to be not one, but 2 invisible femme fatales who have been turned permanently invisible through a chemical lab accident, thanks to some male co-workers who accidentally caused it, and they unintentionally, of course. But then these women, because they can no longer see themselves, it works on their mind, and then suddenly they decide, okay, we're going to go after men, and just there's a gruesome bunch of grisly serial killers, serial murders.
Interesting. It's like actually,
and then
kind of books like that have that kind of mystery and intrigue into there, where you're trying to figure out what's actually going on. It's like, so that's my type of book. And Troy dropped the link to say the best way to keep up on the book series is Rod Thunderheart on Patreon, and he's dropped the link. For those of you who are just coming in, our guest tonight is Rod Thunderheart. At the top of the chat, you will find a link to his channel. And I know y'all want to show the love and subscribe to our guest tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, and then See Through Love 6 is going to be called The Fighter. It's going to be starring an underground fighting ring which the only reason it exists is simply to discover assassins and agents for an underground agency that wants to, basically create assassins with special powers, much like that guy earlier with who can cause things to spontaneously combust.
Neat. Sashi says in the chat, Rod Thunderheart, it is I, your 100th subscriber. So
yeah.
They subscribed
awesome.
8 subs ago.
There you go.
Right on.
Yeah, it's like currently, let me refresh the screen. We are currently at 108 subs. I know we could do better than that. Though. Come on, my peeps. Show the love.
Making progress.
Making progress.
Don't forget that Patreon, you can follow on Patreon for free. You can update at any time, upgrade at any time. So make sure you follow them on Patreon as well.
Absolutely.
This is for my top Patreons.
The man, the legend.
Nice.
And also, in fact, my top Patreons will also get eventually a copy of my book, the second book, that is. And as I said, I'm coming up with other rewards too. I mean, I can take any of your pictures and make you invisible, that kind of thing. That's actually where it started. Actually, was just kind of like I just became obsessed with it, and I had a lot of friends who same thing. I mean, I have a friend who actually can do that with full motion video. I mean, he's only does like 8 second bits, but still. I'm just gonna say, I just wanted to. there's just something about the female form that's just like, I mean, even if you don't see a face, and like, but then like you see the form.
Yeah, I get that. Plus, females are soft and sometimes a little squishy.
Well, and I see that's the thing I find interesting. You're talking about a blind character, but he can see her.
Yeah.
But that whole dichotomy of someone who's invisible, but someone who is used to, in quotes, seeing through his other senses, particularly feeling. So that. I think that's gotta have some great fertile ground. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended, for a romantic story.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the other thing. I mean, like, I didn't intend to, but then by the time I was about halfway through it, I suddenly realized, wow. I mean, I can incorporate romance, martial arts, science fiction, comedy, drama, and spoiler alert, I'm sorry. I mean, because, okay, regardless of, there's something that kind of happens about 2/3 of the way through the book, and you wonder if one of the characters survived. And like, well, and I even had a friend, my friend, my bank manager, actually, she actually bought and read my book, and when this event happened, she was just kind of like, she was so mad, she just like, she put the book down, and I'm like, But then, like, about 10 minutes later, she's like, oh, I gotta read what happens next. And good thing she did, because then, like, because a few pages on, whatever happened, it became kind of ambiguous as to whether or not it actually did it, And then she's like, oh, okay, I'll keep reading, And then,
Oh, I love those type of books where it's like you start reading and you just don't want to put it down because it's like, I got to find out what happens.
That's exactly the impression, actually. In fact, Mexican Iron Man, Mikey.
I love Mikey.
Yeah, he was the first one to actually read my book. He was the first one to really get. I mean, Doomcock had read it, but then like some people didn't always, they're not always serious with Doomcock. But like Mikey, he actually read it, and like I love how he said he ordered it. And then, like, it came in the mail, and then, like, he left it on the shelf for about, like, a day or two, and then finally, like, he cracks it open, and it was, like, 7 o'clock at night. And then he starts reading it, and reading it, and reading it. And I designed just about every chapter to have just a little bit of a cliffhanger, a little hook, and then, like, I mean, it wraps up whatever is happening immediately in the chapter, but then like it leaves a little bit of leaves you hooked for the next chapter. And like that's exactly what happened with Mikey. He read it, and then finally he just kind of like, he's like, I gotta see what happens next, and then like he got to, I don't even remember what chapter, but like suddenly he looks over and it's like it's 2:26 in the morning, and he's just like, I gotta get to bed. So he just stopped in the middle of a chapter and then just put a bookmark there because like he's just kind of like, because he was afraid if he finished another chapter he'd want to keep reading. And that's exactly how I designed the book.
Yeah, I've done that though, where I've been reading a book and it gets to be like 2 a.m. and it's like, oh, but I've only got a couple more chapters left, but I gotta go to bed. And then you're torn because it's like, I want to finish, but I need to get some sleep because I gotta work in the morning, type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I love books like that just really hook you in and you don't want to stop reading them. I mean, I've been reading, it's like not a lot of people know this, but I started reading when I was 4. And the first book I read was one that my brother described to me. It was J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and all that. And he was telling me the story about it, and he had just finished reading, so he put it back on the the bookcase that basically had every book in the house in it. It didn't really belong to anybody in particular. It was just like we had a bunch of different books on there. And so I took the book out and I sat on the floor and I opened up and I started reading. And my mom's like, oh, that's so cute, honey, that you think you're reading, but there's no pictures in that book. I'm like, Mom, I'm reading the book. She goes, sure you are, honey. Until I started reading aloud, she goes, oh my gosh, you're reading and you're 4. And it was The Hobbit. And the only things I really stumbled over were like, like bigger words, or names of certain like races and stuff like that I'd never heard before, so I wasn't sure how to pronounce them.
Yeah.
But it's like, for the most part, I was reading everything, and it's like,
No.
okay, mommy, how do you say this word? And she told me, like, okay, and then I'd continue on. But she was like floored. She's like, how are you reading The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, all that, and you're 4? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
my brother told me about the story, and I wanted to read it for myself. So I picked up the book and started reading. No one taught me. I just knew how to read. I've always loved books. My husband can tell you that I have our front room, I turned it into a library, and it's filled with books. We've got like almost floor to ceiling bookshelves filled with books, and I've got them separated by genre.
Yeah. When I was in grade 1, actually, I was actually allowed in the high school library, which they don't. Yeah, they don't normally allow kids. But then, like, it became apparent and obvious that like I could read, and so they actually allowed me into the high school library. And like, oh man, as a kid, I was just literally at the candy store. I was just I'm like, man, I could just take any book I wanted at home. It was and like and even in junior high, I actually started to get into. I just actually started reading up on psychology, and which in retrospect I discovered that's actually really, really good, because that makes you really cognizant of like character development. So that when you're, I was, ever since I was a kid, I was always like, why are people the way they are, and like, it's funny. Like, I could sit there and tell the bully who was beating the shit out of me, like why he was beating the shit out of me and everything like that. But like, that doesn't help the fact that he's still beating the shit out of me. I could understand why, but like, that doesn't help me. I won most of my fights, but there are a few that I didn't, and like, and like I said, in retrospect, but it teaches you a lot more things too. It teaches you more too. So like,
it's like my husband was starting to study psychology in school, and then just decided that really wasn't for him, and stopped. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think it does help you to like read people, and it kind of gives you a different insight, because he's pretty good at reading people, and so it's like, and I always rely on his expertise for things, because it's like, okay, I know he's going to know about this thing, so I'll ask him whatever, and he always has really great insight. So yeah, 32 years I've been listening to this guy.
Thanks. Right on. Yeah.
She hasn't smothered me in my sleep yet, so I figure I'm doing okay.
Oh, well, there you go.
So now, for your channel, are you, like, what direction are you going in for your channel? Are you planning on having guests on? Are you going to maybe just, like, read different chapters of your book to get people hooked so they'll want to then buy the book? Like each, like, do a stream for chapter 1, a stream for chapter 2, etc., going through a series? Because I know some authors have done that to get people interested, and then they buy the book. It's like, I need a copy for myself.
I just did it.
Yeah, so, like, and if you were to have guests on your channel, who do you think would be, like, your big get? The one person you would really love to have on there that you could interview or just chat with?
Oh.
I know, I always ask that hard question.
Yeah. Well, no. You're right. Mind you, well, I wouldn't mind Robert Meyer Burnett, or I guess the big thing though is I kind of like somebody who's read my book. And by the way, that's another thing. Vali Anawahi, she's read my book. She loved it. She absolutely loved it. And also Harry Smith, son of the British Bulldog, he's read it as well, several times actually. He actually goes by his dad's name now, Davy Boy Smith Jr. And and he's actually very, very um, Eastern minded in terms of like I mean, like he's lived in Japan. He goes through the training there. He likes to meditate under he actually got a meditation pyramid. Uh, he's very, very like martial arts minded, and like, wow, good for him. Every time I see him, and he looks like his dad now too. I was really moved too. It's like when I met Harry, when I first met Harry, I met him in like 2000. Harry was like chest level to me, and now I'm like chest level to him. Yeah, no, he's a Hulk, man.
Okay,
You know,
let's do a quick check-in here. I am showing 109. Come on, peeps. I know we can get at least one more to get to 110, and I'm sure that there are 5 more after that that can get us up to 115. What do you say, peeps? Can we show the love? It's like, I know you can. Okay.
yeah. I've found also through live streams that while I mean I've always known. I mean, I'm pretty well read. I mean, like I can just pop into like any doctor's office, and then like I could find any magazine there interesting. Psychology Today, Popular Science, Popular Mechanics, you name it. And I could just wow, and I'd be really fascinated, and I could wind up holding a conversation with somebody on whatever subject or whatever I was reading. And I've managed to maintain that level of knowledge. There's a lot of things too that I've kept. I mean, like even conspiracy minded. Like, I mean, for example, I'm not even sure if anybody even knew about this, but in 1933, there was a bunch of Wall Street bankers who actually, conspiracy theory, but it did happen. There was something called the business plot, and a bunch of Wall Street bankers actually they were afraid of of Roosevelt's plan to, with his socialist policies because of the Great Depression, and as a result, Wall Street bankers were scared to death, and they were afraid of losing all their profits. So what they did was they wanted to install a fascist government, American government, and they actually hired General Smedley. I forget his last name, or General Smedley. And he was a decorated World War I veteran. And they'd actually hired him, but he wasn't stupid. He turned around and he just went to the American government. Hey, this is gonna happen, interesting thing is not unlike January 6th. Not unlike January 6th. Nobody of rich, no rich man went to prison. Which honestly, somebody should, at least a few people should have, for like plotting against the government, and the same thing with January 6th. Somebody should have, but we all know nobody's going to. It's just going to get swept under the rug, and I'm not, I mean, like, whether you're for or against, it doesn't matter. You were still plotting against the government, and, but anyway. That's the kind of things, like I said, I mean, little things like that catch me and all that. And, I mean, also, for example, a lot of people don't realize this. Henry Ford actually developed a Model T that actually ran on hemp fuel and was made out of hemp plastic, which is actually stronger than steel. And,
actually didn't know that.
and, yeah, and it was actually Henry Ford's plan to put the power of fuel back in the farmer. The farmer could just, he could harvest hemp. An entire field of hemp could wind up powering a car for probably just about a year.
Nice.
Yeah, and the emissions would be zero too. But.
Well,
little things like that, like
you
you said. Yeah, little things like that I've read up on, and I've always kept in my head, and We live? Hello? Anybody around? I don't hear anybody. We're still counting down or counting up. Are you around? Anybody? Nobody? Well, anybody else want to know anything about me? Well, I'm a cat dad. I've got two. I've got Alessandra cat. She's sleeping right over there behind the thing. She looks like Garfield. She's not orange, but she does have the Garfield stripes. And I have my other kid, Buster. Where is he? Oh, he's up there. He's up there in the tree. Yeah, that's Buster cat. And he is a legendary black cat, which, if you're not aware, the Egyptians actually looked at black cats as sacred and guardians of their realm. And because cats actually can, I wonder where everybody went. Cats can actually see spirits, from the other side. They see things that we can't, And in fact, if you see your cat like running all around crazy like that, maybe there's a spirit chasing him or something. But yeah, no,
Sorry
like
about that. It's like we had some weather and lost internet.
I wondered. I'm like, whoa. Eh.
Yeah, but you carried on. Well, we're near the end of the stream anyway. Thank you for continuing on while we were trying to get back in. Just want to ask what you have coming up that you want to tell everyone about. I think we pretty much discussed everything that you have going on, but guys, do you have anything immediate coming up in the very near future that you want to tell everyone about to look out for?
Well, I've put chapters 1 and 2. I may even go up to 6. We'll see. Because I designed in my book, I designed chapters 1 to 6 to be read within 5 to 7 minutes, and then that's the whole. And then, like, by the time chapter 7 rolls around, then you're a little more ready for a longer, more nuanced story, and then like to dig into the behind the scenes and all that. And that's why and that's why from chapter 7 on, it's a lot more, because if you're going to read the book, and you get to the end of chapter 6, again, chapters 1 to 6, they all end with like each chapter just kind of like, oh, what happens next, and awesome. Then you're just like, well, it's, and like, again, you're, and then also, like, if you're one of those wacky zoomers who likes e-copies, you can get an e-copy of my book for a whole 99 cents.
Awesome.
So
okay.
Echo.
Yep, sorry about that. It's like I forgot to mute myself when Troy came back in because we share a mic. Since I'm concerned that we're going to lose internet again, I want to quickly wrap up. So tomorrow night over on Friday night, Last Call with Troy Pacelli. Do you have a topic?
Yes, we are going to be talking about dreams.
Oh, and, right.
And of course, in 2 weeks from Saturday, you will be hosting a rewatch of the Dennis Quaid film Dreamscape, a movie that I happen to love. So I guess we're keeping thematic. August is about dreams, I guess. But it'll be an interesting conversation. And of course, I will be drinking, so I will be having some very, very strange dreams tomorrow night. But we will get started with that conversation at Last Call, 9 Central, 10 Eastern on my channel.
Yep, and then on Saturday, right back here on Netters Network, Retro Cinema, we'll be watching Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And we will also be celebrating our 32nd year anniversary. So I hope you can all join us for that. Yeah, it's such a romantic movie, you know?
Right after tonight's stream, of course, get over to Deleted Scenes, and he will fill you in on everything he's got coming up this weekend with his weekend update. Let me see if I can't find the link for you guys.
Yep. Let's see. And I'm not going to go through the myriad of the other things, but then next Thursday, here over on Thursday Things, my guest will be, I hope I don't mess up the pronunciation, is Farvithian Guard.
Yep.
So yeah, some of these,
Another author.
Yeah, some of these names are tongue twisters for me. So that will be next Thursday. And again, here is the book that we are looking at, Mind Force Secrets. I mean, that's
This is again one of the you know, like you said, this is like it's the internal martial arts, and that's what I like about the qigong meditation.
Absolutely. Now, before we sign off for tonight, because you know I'm going to be doing my outro, can I get at least one more sub? I like even numbers. Thank you, my lovelies. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, encouraging not just us on the panel, but those in the chat. And of course, you know what I always say, we can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well good and fun, but it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat, and you're dropping your comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. Hi, Sashi. It feels like we're all hanging out in the same room, enjoying each other's company and having a great time. And you guys, you know you're not just our friends. You are our family. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so very much. You can be anywhere right now, and you're here. And it's so encouraging to see you here. I said, I love seeing my family. So I love seeing you in each of our streams. I love sharing this time with you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of our family. I am refreshing one more time. Beautiful. See, I knew my lovelies would come through. We have 111 sub because you guys were sharing the love. I knew you would. Thank you so much. So I love you guys. Appreciate you so very much. And until next time, which will be tomorrow night on Troy's channel, good night and God bless.